Discovering divine transformation, why your sacred season of waiting is miraculously revealed. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, darkness gripped the land of Israel. The people cried out amid turmoil, their voices echoing through the valleys of Canaan as the oppressive rule of King Jabin ensnared them like an iron net. It was a time when every Israelite faced the merciless grip of fear, knowing that Sisera, the commander of Jabin's powerful army, ruled with chariots of iron. Amid this chaos, a light shone. A woman named Deborah, a prophetess and judge, sought the face of the Lord beneath the shade of her palm tree. Each day, Israelites journeyed to her for counsel, drawn by her wisdom, yearning for justice. The air was thick with tension as Deborah, known for her insight, felt the stirring of God's voice. One fateful day, as the sun cast long shadows across the earth, she called for Barak, son of Abinoam. Though he was a man of valor, doubt clung to him like a heavy cloak. Deborah boldly spoke, "Go, gather your men at Mount Tabor, for the Lord will deliver Sisera into your hand." Barak hesitated. "If you will go with me, I will go, but if you will not go with me, I will not go." The resolve of Deborah ignited courage in Barak's heart. "Surely I will go with you," she replied, but her words bore a prophecy. "The road on which you are going will not lead to your glory, for the Lord will sell Sisera into the hand of a woman." The preparations began, like hearts tuning to the divine overture. Men from Naphtali and Zebulun gathered, hands gripping swords that had lain untouched. Weeks passed, each day alive with expectation as Deborah reminded them that God's promises were steadfast. The rhythm of their faith echoed through the hills, transforming despair into a tapestry of trust and divine anticipation. As the awaited time approached, the air crackled, the armies hovered at the foot of Mount Tabor while Sisera's chariots thundered ominously from the valley. Doubt crept among the ranks. But Deborah, eyes fixed on the heavens, felt a surge of divine empowerment flow through her. "Arise, for this is the day the Lord has delivered Sisera into your hand," she proclaimed, shaking off fear and igniting faith. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. The clash of steel loomed closer, a crescendo of divine conflict. As the dust rose from Sisera's advancing forces, anticipation crackled like lightning in the air. The power of God was about to unfold. The commander's array, bolstered by the fierce might of iron chariots, was leading to the inevitable confrontation, but little did they know a profound, transformative intervention was set to shift the tides. As the battle commenced, Israel stood not merely as soldiers but as vessels of God's promises, preparing for a moment of divine revelation that would echo through generations to come. What would happen next would leave all present in awe, each heart wondering how God would fulfill his promise against such great odds. As the sun blazed high above Mount Tabor, casting its fierce light upon the assembled warriors, Barak rallied his men, hearts thundering beneath their armor. Deborah, steadfast at his side, raised her voice above the din, the voice of the Lord resounding through her words. "For the Lord has gone out before you, engage them in battle." With a united shout, the Israelites descended like a tempest, charging against Sisera's formidable army. The earth trembled beneath the rush of footfalls, and the sky darkened with the cacophony of clattering chariots. But then, as if heavens themselves conspired to shatter the strength of Jabin's might, a sudden storm loomed over the battlefield. Dark clouds swirled, and a torrential rain fell upon the dry ground, turning it into a quagmire. The iron chariots of Sisera, which struck fear into the heart of every Israelite, became their downfall, stuck and immobile amid the mire. Frightened and disoriented, Sisera saw his forces faltering. The celestial downpour was a sign, a testimony of God's power. Barak, emboldened by the hand of the Lord, pressed forward. "Pursue them," he commanded, and the men surged after their enemies with renewed resolve, voices lifted high in adoration, proclaiming the glory of the God of Israel. As the chaos unfolded, Sisera dismounted his chariot, fleeing on foot like a shadow consumed by despair. His heart pounded, dread enveloping him, for the fear of an impending doom loomed over him like an insatiable beast. The prophecy of Deborah echoed in his mind, a reminder that his fate was sealed by the very promises of God. In his frantic escape, Sisera ran towards the tent of Jael, wife of Heber the Kenite. With a guise of sanctuary, she welcomed him, offering him refuge. "Turn aside, my lord, stay here with me," she whispered, sensing his vulnerability. Sisera, weary and desperate for respite, dimly perceived her loyalty and lowered himself into her tent, hiding among the folds of the heavy garments. Jael, guided by an unseen hand, recognized the moment that fate aligned with divine purpose. With a fierce resolve, she took a tent peg in one hand and a hammer in the other. As Sisera drifted into a weary slumber, she approached him quietly, her heart resolute, for she understood the deliverance of Israel hinged upon this act. When the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, the battle was won, but the story of God's deliverance was not yet complete. Deborah and Barak, triumphant, followed the trails of their enemies, their hearts filled with the joy of victory yet unaware of the pivotal deed that was about to unfold. The ground shook with the echoes of Barak's soldiers, while Sisera lay peacefully oblivious within Jael's tent. A critical moment of divine rendezvous stood at the brink. Would the prophecy of Deborah soon unfold? As the sun rose higher, illuminating the path of faith and the unfolding drama of God's plan, every heart in Israel wrestled with the promise of hope, bringing forth anticipation like the morning dew. Yet, only the heavens above knew how God would weave the threads of victory together, leading not merely to freedom, but to a bond between nations and an eternal legacy that would resound through the ages. For what was about to transpire was not merely about the defeat of an army, it was about the divine orchestration of purpose and calling, forever echoing that nothing is too great for the God of Israel. At that very moment, the seeds of destiny were being sown, whispers of a sovereign plan reaching into the depths of time. As the dawn unveiled its glory, Jael stood poised in the quiet of her tent, the weight of destiny heavy upon her heart. The air was thick with anticipation as she drew closer to the slumbering Sisera, whose breath came slow and rhythmic, unaware of the fate that awaited him. In that sacred silence, the unfolding plan of God trembled with potential, for she sensed she was to be an instrument of his divine will. With unwavering determination, Jael grasped the tent peg tightly, her hand steady, her spirit emboldened by the knowledge that she was part of a grand narrative penned by the Almighty himself. She whispered a prayer, "O Lord of hosts, guide my hand." Her heart, full of faith, thrummed like the heartbeat of Israel's future. Meanwhile, the battle raged on outside, where the voices of Barak's men echoed like thunder in the heavens, each victory sparking hope within the hearts of the Israelites. As the scattered remnants of Sisera's army fled, the land began to breathe anew. The cries of triumph over despair mingled with the praises that filled the air, resounding as a symphony of deliverance. At the edge of the battlefield, Barak, his sword glinting in the sunlight, sought the remnants of Sisera's forces, relentless in his pursuit. "Where is he?" he demanded of a fleeing soldier, whose face mirrored the horror of defeat. The man stammered, "My lord, he fled on foot, but he hesitated. He has taken refuge in the tent of Jael, the wife of Heber." A sudden stillness fell upon Barak, the mention of Jael igniting a flicker of realization within him. "There is no place for evil to hide," he declared, and with renewed vigor, he turned towards the tent, each step propelled by purpose. Within, Jael's resolve culminated. As Sisera stirred, roused from his dreams, confusion washed over him. But before he could rise, she struck with divine precision, the peg piercing through flesh and earth, sealing the victory decreed by God. A gasp escaped Sisera's lips as he succumbed to his fate. The prophecy of Deborah emanated true, embodied in the actions of a single woman, Jael, a seemingly humble cipher in the grand tale of Israel. Almost simultaneously, Barak approached the tent, the sound of his footsteps muffled by the holy weight of the moment. Calling out, he sought Sisera, yet as he crossed the threshold, the sight that met his eyes summoned forth a mix of shock and awe. Jael stood, bloodied but unyielding, her faith transformed into action and triumph, a battle-worn victor against oppression. "Blessed are you among women, Jael," Barak proclaimed, the truth of Deborah's words reverberating through his spirit. "You have delivered our people from the tyranny of Jabin." Jael, catching her breath, whispered, "It was the hand of God that guided my actions. He has not forgotten his people." As the day unfolded, the news of Sisera's demise spread like wildfire through the camp of Israel, igniting hearts with the fire of renewed faith. And with each recounting, the legacy of their victory began to intertwine with the covenant promise of God, a future radiant with hope. Yet, hidden within this glorious triumph lay a sacred truth: though Sisera had fallen, God's plan extended beyond mere deliverance. What would become of Israel now, united through both victory and the bond of unexpected allies? The hearts of many pondered this, the air thick with divine promise as the sun began to descend, heralding the next phase of God's unfolding story. For in the tapestry of time, there are threads yet to be woven, destinies yet to be fulfilled, and whisperings of eternal plans lingering in the atmosphere. What other divine transformations would come to bear upon the earth, as God continued to unleash his sovereign will among his people? The hearts of Israel awaited, eyes raised to the heavens, hopeful for the mysteries yet to be revealed. As the twilight shadows danced upon the ground, the camp of Israel rejoiced in their victory, voices lifted in songs of praise and thankfulness to the God who had delivered them. The Israelites gathered, recounting the tale of valor, the name of Jael spoken like a hymn among them. The news echoed from tent to tent, galvanizing the people into a fervor of thanksgiving for the hand of God that had turned their darkest hour into a dawn of triumph. Barak, now standing before the assembly, raised his arms, calling for silence. "Israel, hear me." His voice boomed like thunder across the encampment, drawing eyes towards him, eager for words of wisdom in this sacred hour. "We have witnessed the overthrow of our oppressors, the fall of Sisera, and it is through the courage of our sister Jael that we stand victorious today." He gestured toward Jael, whose presence illuminated the gathering, a warrior in spirit despite her humble origins. "It is the Lord who fights our battles." In this moment, let us not forget the very words spoken by Deborah, the prophetess, whose prophetic voice continues to guide us. As the people murmured in agreement, Jael's heart filled with humility. She had not sought glory or recognition but had been obedient to the call placed upon her life. Within her, a promise ignited anew, a longing to serve the God who had called both her and the people of Israel into his greater plan. However, amidst the celebration, a stillness lingered at the back of her mind, a divine whisper urging her to ponder the future. What did the Lord require now? What sacred tasks lay ahead for the remnant of his people? The memories of Sisera's tyranny haunted her thoughts, they were bones of torment buried in the past. Yet, she sensed that God's story was far from over. That night, as the sky deepened into an ocean of stars, an angel of the Lord descended upon the encampment, casting a radiant glow. The atmosphere tingled with expectancy, and the hearts of Israel stirred, sensing the presence of the divine. Barak, feeling a profound spiritual urgency, fell to his knees, imploring the Lord for guidance. "O God, what is your will for this people? How shall we proceed as a united army of faith?" In response to Barak's cry, the angel spoke with clarity that resonated into the depths of every heart. "The Lord has heard your plea, Barak, and he is preparing a new covenant for his people. The victory over Sisera is but a first fruit of what is to come. The land of Canaan has not yet yielded, there are giants that remain, fortified cities and strongholds that must fall." Anxiety raced through the assembly, but the angel continued, "Fear not, for the Lord is with you. Assemble your warriors, for the time has come for Israel to rise not only as victors, but as a beacon of hope for the nations. Your deliverance shall foster a deeper renewal, your unity will fulfill the prophecies spoken since the days of Abraham." Jael, rising to her feet, felt a charge surge within her spirit. In that hallowed moment, clarity dawned upon her. She had been called for such a time as this, part of God's orchestra of redemption. She turned to Barak. "Let us prepare our hearts and minds for the battle ahead, for the Lord our God is faithful to fulfill his promise." There is still much work to be done. As the assembly murmured their agreement, a sense of renewed purpose filled the air. But even amidst this conviction, a lingering mystery clouded the horizon. If they were to conquer the lands ahead, what greater purpose lay beyond the battles fought and the victories won? With hearts aflame and eyes fixed on the divine directive, they prepared themselves for journey yet unknown, the promise of God whispering possibilities in their hearts. For even now, in the shadows of retribution and struggle, a greater promise waited to be fulfilled, a promise that tied their destinies not just to land or conquest, but to an everlasting covenant that would reshape the very pillars of history. What would be the outcome of their faithfulness, and how would God weave it into his grand narrative? The dawn of revelation was upon them, and the world was on the brink of remarkable change. Gathering at the break of dawn, the people of Israel assembled with renewed hearts, a fire ignited within them that surged through their very souls. The awakening sun spilled golden rays across the camp, illuminating the faces of mothers, fathers, young men, and women who now bore an air of purpose. Barak stood once more at the forefront, his voice resonating like a battle cry, "Children of Israel, the Lord's hand is upon us. Today, we march not just as an army, but as instruments of his promise." With each spoken word, faith unfurled like the banners that flew above them. The name of the Lord was upon their lips as they prepared for the gathering of the tribes. They dressed not only in their armor but in their conviction, hearts ready to reclaim what had been denied to them for so long. Yet, in the depths of Jael's heart, the whisper of the Spirit remained, urging reflection and anticipation. She gathered the women around her, imparting the words of Deborah, "Strengthen your hearts and gird yourselves for the work ahead. We are called to rebuild that which was broken, to sow seeds of righteousness amid the ruins of our past." The women nodded, their eyes glistening with determination. They were to support their men, to be the harbingers of hope and strength. As the sun climbed higher, casting shadows that danced at their feet, the assembly united in prayer. "O Lord of hosts!" Barak cried, "Guide us in our paths. As we confront those who dwell in fortified cities, instill within us the bravery of David, the trust of Abraham, and the wisdom of Solomon." Each voice joined his fervent plea, resonating through the valleys, clashing against the mountains like a symphony of supplication and commitment. With divine encouragement pulsing through them, they set forth, a host determined to face the uncertainties of their future. The word of the Lord echoed in them like thunder, promising victories not yet seen. They journeyed toward the land of the Canaanites, a land rife with giants, cities fortified against the humble army of Israel. Still, they marched forward, hearts swollen with hope and heavenly assurance. Along the way, they encountered Jericho, its walls towering ominously, a testament to the might of their adversaries. Fear danced in the hearts of some, yet the memories of God's faithfulness quelled their doubts. Jael stepped forward, emboldened by the Spirit, "Remember the promises we have been given. With God's favor, these walls shall come down. We are not mere men and women but the chosen vessels of the Almighty." Her words rang through the ranks, igniting the light of faith in the hearts of the weary. As they camped beneath the night sky, the gathered tribes shared stories of God's past deliverance: Red Seas parted, walls fallen, and battles won. Each tale wove their spirits tighter as the Spirit of God moved among them. Just then, a young warrior asked, "How do we know the Lord is truly with us?" The air was taut with expectation, an eagerness for answers that would pierce the night. Jael, sensing the threads of doubt, replied, "His faithfulness is written upon our hearts, His presence is revealed in our unity. We may not see the future, but we walk by faith, not by sight. The Lord will reveal the path ahead." And so, they laid their heads down under the watchful stars, dreams tangled with visions of the promises yet to unfold. But even as slumber took them, Jael's spirit remained alert, for she sensed a deeper mystery brewing, a divine plan unfolding in the very fabric of their lives, something monumental binding their fates together beyond their immediate battles. Unbeknownst to them all, a still greater purpose lingered, waiting to be unveiled. For in their pursuit of the promised land, they would not only face giants of the earth but awaken a legacy that would echo throughout the ages, the dawn of a covenant destined to transcend their own histories, revealing a Savior yet to come. How would their faith and obedience pave the way for such divine promise? The echoes of their journey had only just begun. As the first light of dawn broke once more over the land of promise, the people of Israel stirred from their restless slumber, rejuvenated by the hope that had tethered their dreams to divine purpose. The air around them buzzed with expectation, for they knew today was no ordinary day. Barak, with a heart swelling with courage and conviction, called the assembly to order. "Arise, O warriors of Israel! Our time has come to meet our fate upon the fields of battle." He lifted his staff, and the multitudes responded with roars of affirmation, a sound like the rushing waters filling the valleys. Each heart beat as one undaunted, unbroken, ready for the reckoning set forth by the hand of the Almighty. But in the heart of Jael, stirring winds of divine revelation began to swirl. As the women gathered once again, she spoke, her voice a blend of strength and serenity. "Sisters, prepare your hearts, for we are not mere spectators of this fight. In our homes and in the fields, our roles extend beyond the shadows. This battle belongs to all of us, for we shall show that the strength of our men is carried in the fibers of our prayers and deeds." Thus, with renewed vigor, the women dedicated themselves to the support of their people. They wove banners and prepared provisions, instilling courage within those who marched into the unknown. As bands of warriors made their way toward the Canaanite cities, doubt crept upon them like a fog rolling in from the sea. Barak halted their march beside a great oak tree, its roots deep and wide beneath them, and he turned to face them with eyes alight. "Fear not. For it is said in Isaiah 41 verse 10, Fear not, for I am with you, be not dismayed, for I am your God, I will strengthen you, I will help you, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Let this be our proclamation. Let us join our hearts to courage, and our voices to the heavens. The air crackled with anticipation as their spirits soared. They pressed onward, a mighty wave of unity flowing toward the fortified city, knowing full well that the Lord was their shield and battle-axe. Yet, within the walls of Jericho, the hearts of Canaan trembled. News spread like wildfire. The mighty armies of Israel were advancing, emboldened by their God. Fearful whispers filled the streets as women clutched their children, and soldiers sharpened their swords in quiet desperation. They knew of the Israelite victories, their mighty God who had parted the Red Sea, and the stories of walls that had crumbled at his command. Amid their dread, the Canaanite leaders devised plans, seeking to fortify their walls through earthly means, unaware of the divine counsel that was actively at play. Little did they realize that the very foundations of their stronghold would soon be shaken by the echo of obedience that rang out from the chosen of Israel. As the day marched on, the people of Israel set their sights upon the looming walls of Jericho. The sounds of trumpets brayed in the distance, the air grew thick with palpable tension as warriors lifted their voices in prayer. They claimed the words of Joshua, who had once led them, "The Lord your God is with you wherever you go," remembering also the decree of faith in Jeremiah 29 verse 11, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord." At that moment, a thought crossed Jael's mind, filled with a whisper of divine foresight. She turned to her companions, the women who stood resolute beside her. What if our obedience becomes the very weapon of our deliverance? What if through the act of faith, we shatter the chains that bind us? And as the sun began to dip beneath the horizon, cloaking the battlefield in hues of crimson, a deeper revelation stirred within Jael's heart. For through this battle, God was not only liberating his people from their oppressors but ushering in an era where divine promises would echo through the corridors of time. At that moment, unbeknownst to them, the victory had begun before the battle commenced, for the Lord was weaving a tapestry of redemption, shrouded in mystery, leading his people to an unforeseen destiny. God's sovereign plan was unfolding, promising that the ruins of the past would lay the very foundation for the glory of what was yet to come. How would their act of faith in the face of adversity further unveil the marvels hidden within God's sovereign promise? As night descended upon the land, a hushed stillness enveloped the camp of Israel. The warriors gathered in small circles, their fervent prayers mingling with the flickering light of the torches. Barak, mindful of the weight of the coming dawn, sought to inspire his brethren once more. Brothers, we stand on the precipice of destiny. Remember the words spoken unto our forefather Abraham, to your offspring I will give this land. Tonight, we shall lay claim to the promise, for it is God who fights for us. All around him, voices rose in a symphony of declaration, echoing the past glories and the fervent promises yet to be fulfilled. The sound was a clarion call, a reminder that they were not just men of war but children of the covenant. Among the women, Jael felt the pulse of unity ripple through the air. She gathered her companions and spoke with an earnest spirit. Let us prepare not only our hearts but our homes. As barriers fall, let our doors be open to those who seek refuge. For our victory shall not only be in the fields but in the sanctity of our lives, sheltering those whom God has freed. With hands quickened by purpose, they crafted provisions for the weary, their unity reflecting the very promise they upheld. The courage of their hearts became a wellspring of strength, their acts of faith intertwined with the divine movement. As the first rays of the morning sun pierced the darkness, a divine charge swept over the Israelites. Barak, bathed in the golden light, called out, "Today, we march. Today, we witness the mighty hand of the Lord." With that proclamation, they ascended toward Jericho, the very air thick with expectation. Each soldier felt the tremor of destiny in their feet, a rhythm unyielding that seemed to echo along the ancient stones of the city. The commanders took their positions, and at the forefront stood Barak, with Deborah beside him, the prophetess whose words had ignited the fires of their courage. Let us remember the command of our God as given to Joshua. You shall march around the city, all the men of war going around the city once. Thus shall you do for 6 days. Yet today shall be different, we shall lift our voices in unison. A great shout resonated through the ranks, and with each step they took, the earth trembled beneath them, bearing testimony to their faith. As they encircled the formidable walls of Jericho, the very cosmos seemed to hold its breath. Inscribed in secret, a singular truth remained: in their faithfulness to God's instruction, the walls would tremble not by might but by His Spirit. With every circuit, Jael's heart burned with an unshakable faith that echoed the promise of Isaiah 54 verse 17, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." But as the intensity heightened, within the fortified walls of Jericho, the Canaanite leaders gathered in urgency. They felt their defenses falter amidst fearful hearts. Such boldness can only be folly. What strength can be found in their cries? One scoffed, while another, clutching his sword, whispered, "Their God is upon them, and none can stand against him." And thus, divine tension thickened with every circle they made, while Jael watched with eyes wide open, full of expectation. What was being prepared before them could well be the shattering of the very chains that had bound them for generations. And while the first light of day mingled with the fear of the Canaanites, the faithful of Israel stood united, hearts aligned with the lofty call of God. Little did they know that the moment was but the beginning, the threshold into a new dawn where God's promise would unveil its glory. But what remained uncertain was how the unbreakable principles of faith would manifest in this moment of profound challenge. Would their obedience lead to deliverance? Would the tapestry of their lives reveal the face of God in ways yet unseen? As they made their final approach, the question lingered in the air: would the walls crumble at His command? They awaited the unfolding of God's sovereign plan, for the story had just begun. As the sun rose higher, casting brilliant rays upon the ancient walls of Jericho, the people of Israel found themselves entwined in an atmosphere thick with anticipation. Barak, emboldened by the presence of the Most High, uttered a prayer of thanksgiving. "O Lord, you who called us by your name, grant us strength this day. We do not march alone, but as vessels of your service." Deborah, hearing his whispered plea, felt the power of the Spirit surging through her. With a mighty voice, she urged the men forward, "Be strong and courageous, for our God leads us. Today, He shall show His glory. The enemies of our God will know that we belong to Him." As the Israelites completed the next circuit around the city, the sound of their voices soared heavenward, a melody of faith mingled with fervor, echoing the thoughts of Psalm 150, "Let everything that has breath praise the Lord." The ground trembled in resonation, for the divine promise lay upon them like a mantle of fire, true faith igniting the very air as they proclaimed God's power. But within the walls, fear gripped the hearts of the Canaanites. The guards on watch peered over the ramparts, witnessing the unwavering determination of the Israelites. "What manner of battle is this?" cried one of the leaders. "They come not with swords and shields, yet their fervor shakes the very foundations." Another, desperate, interjected, "We must gather our strength, for they are emboldened by some unseen power. We cannot let fear dictate our fate." Yet whispers of uncertainty seemed to weaken the resolve of even the fiercest warriors among them. They turned to their idols and called upon the false gods that had long promised them victory, but silence and void echoed back to them. Meanwhile, Jael, busied in her home, held the weight of her own expectations. She fought against a tide of doubt that sought to creep into her heart. "Surely God has a plan," she murmured to herself, remembering his covenant with Abraham as a beacon of hope. Her spirit was resolute. She would prepare not just for victory but for the healing of her people as well. For she understood that true deliverance transcended the battlefield, it was found in the sacred embrace of his mercy. As the seventh day dawned, Barak gathered the elders. "Today shall be different. We shall circle this city 7 times. On the 7th time, we shall raise a shout as one voice." And as they marched, an unseen force began to gather. The sky darkened momentarily, as if heaven itself bore witness to their steadfast faith. On the 7th circuit, an electric charge filled the air, palpable among the hearts of the Israelites. They could hardly contain their excitement, a powerful surge coursing through them. Barak raised his hand, and the moment arrived. With a unified cry, they shouted, "For the Lord is good, his mercy endures forever." The walls of Jericho shuddered, a great tremor shaking the earth. Suddenly, in what seemed a divine orchestration, the very structure of the city began to collapse as though the earth itself obeyed the command of its creator. Cries of fear echoed from within. The Canaanites could not contend against such a force. As the dust settled, the remaining Israelites watched in awe as the mighty walls crumbled around them. What they did not know was that this act was not merely a victory in battle, but a fulfillment of prophetic promise, a prelude to the greater plans God held for his people. For within Jael's heart a spark ignited. She felt a deeper calling. Perhaps her role in this unfolding story would intertwine with the tapestry of Israel's deliverance. Could she harbor the one whom God would use in a new way? The question stirred her spirit as she moved towards the front lines. Thus, the day marked not only the fall of Jericho but the beginning of transformation, whispering through history the promise that God is ever faithful. And though the walls had fallen, what other barriers remained to fall? Would there be a new dawn of redemption that awaited them all? For his sovereign plan was yet unfolding, an intricate design set in motion through the faithful. The story continued to weave its divine mystery. As the dust of Jericho settled and the cries of fear faded into the air, Barak gathered the people of Israel to witness the fallen walls. The sight was both dreadful and awe-inspiring, a testament to the power of their God. "Look upon what the Lord has done. His hand is mighty and his promise unfailing," he declared, raising his arms as the sun glistened on the rubble, casting a halo of light around them. Deborah stood alongside him, her heart swelling with joy and reverence. "Truly, our Lord has fought for us. Let not our hearts grow weary in waiting, for his ways are perfect, and his plans far exceed our own." The people erupted in songs of praise, lifting their voices in unison to glorify him who had delivered them. Yet, amidst jubilation, Jael felt a tug upon her spirit. She had drawn near to the fringes of the crowd, her gaze transfixed not by the triumphant destruction, but by an unshakable knowing, a call that resonated within. She turned her eyes toward the still distant encampments of the Canaanites, who would surely gather their wits beneath the shadow of defeat. "What shall we do now?" one of the elders questioned, breaking into Jael's thoughts. "The city lies in ruins, but the battle is not yet won. We must be vigilant," Barak replied solemnly. "For though their walls have fallen, the hearts of the Canaanites still dwell in pride and anger. They will seek to regroup. Our fight is not yet over." In contrast, Jael felt a resolve stirring in her heart. Trust and the whisper of destiny pressed within. She recalled the God who had delivered the Israelites from bondage in Egypt, who had provided for them in the wilderness, and the same God who had allowed the walls of Jericho to succumb to mere faith and sound. Strength in unity we shall need, she spoke up, drawing attention from the assembly. But let us not seek only physical warfare, the Lord has greater plans for us. As he promised Abraham, we are destined to shine as a light among the nations. We must prepare our hearts, for there is much to be done. Barak regarded her with piercing eyes, his spirit quickened. Jael, your words carry weight. Perhaps there is truth in waiting upon the Lord for guidance. Let us seek his counsel through prayer and sacrifice. And so, the people turned towards their tents, preparing offerings unto the Lord, their voices echoing songs of praise. Yet Jael felt a deeper urgency. She beckoned a few women, their hearts a tapestry woven in faith, and gathered them away from the noise. Together, they prayed for discernment and strategy. As night enveloped the land, and firelight flickered in the distance, Jael revealed her thoughts, whispers of God's sovereign plan. Perhaps, sisters, these walls were not the only thing in need of collapse. The heart of Sisera himself must be shaken, for in him lies the greatest threat to our people. The group held their breath at the mention of the enemy commander, the one whom history had painted in fear. But how? They collectively pondered, their faces illuminated by the glow of the flames. His strength is in his pride, yet God's greatest weapon is humility. If he is to fall, he must be led into unexpected places, Jael proposed, a divine spark illuminating her countenance. Our avenues are unfamiliar, yet the Lord's wisdom surpasses our understanding. With night deepening around them, Jael's heart thrummed with purpose. This is not the end for us, but the beginning. The women gathered close, a circle of hope awakened, as they united in belief of the divine path laid before them. Little did they know, God's sovereign plan was unrolling the narrative of redemption, a tapestry interwoven with unforeseen encounters and transformations yet to be revealed. How many more layers of this divine design lay ahead, waiting just beyond the threshold of courage? Would they walk into this new chapter, believing wholeheartedly in the God who writes history through humble hearts? As dawn rose over the encampment, the air pulsated with expectancy. The Israelites gathered, hearts ignited by purpose and renewed faith. Barak stood tall, his voice carrying across the assembled multitude. Today, as God has chosen, we shall advance. We have seen his might and know that he is our defender. Jael, positioned among the women, felt the stirring of anticipation within her spirit. The courage that had propelled her to act in faith during Sisera's defeat now ignited a desire to further God's plan for her people. We must be vigilant and prepared to follow his will wherever it leads us, she whispered to those nearby, her conviction palpable. Barak rallied the warriors, their swords gleaming in the sun's embrace, and prepared to face any remnant of the Canaanite threat head-on. But in the quiet of her heart, Jael sensed a deeper calling, a guiding thread woven through their journey of faith. Let us not merely conquer our enemies with might, she spoke to her fellow women, but let us also seek healing for our wounded and wisdom for our leaders. As the men marched toward the remnants of Sisera's forces, the women mobilized to ready themselves for what lay ahead, weaving garments to protect them. Gratitude filled Jael's heart, for she recognized her role as one of many pieces in God's great tapestry, a mosaic crafted from obedience, faith, and unexpected alliances. The day unfolded with fierce determination. The warriors of Israel advanced, and as they approached the horizon where Canaanite forces gathered, their spirits soared high. Barak shouted, "We will remember this day as one of faith and victory." And with drums resounding, the army surged forward. Yet Sisera's remnants lingered, coiling in fear, emboldened by treachery and doubt. Within their ranks, whispers of dread traveled like wildfire. The God of Israel fights for them. He has turned the very rocks into weapons against us. As they readied themselves for the impending clash, Jael's heart raced with the promise God had whispered into her soul. Let us sow seeds of mercy amid the battle, she resolved, turning to her sisters in faith. We shall extend our hands to those who yield, for their hearts may be softened toward the truths we carry. In the midst of approaching chaos, she reached out to a passing soldier. His armor bore the marks of his lineage, and his face reflected uncertainty. Why do you fight for a cause that bears no fruit? Come, join us and seek peace. She implored, her earnestness cutting through his armor as he faltered. On the battlefield, the chaos erupted, swords clashed, hearts thrilled with valor, and shouts echoed against the weary mountains. Yet amidst the noise, nurture blossomed among the women. They tended to wounded soldiers both friend and foe, embodying the very grace they wished to receive. As victory unfurled before them, the armies of Israel gathered, their bark of obedience resonating throughout the valleys, witnessing God's unshakable hand. Divinely orchestrated, deliverance continued to pour forth, bolstered by unity and compassion, a true reflection of the heart of their God. With Sisera's forces scattered and the calamity diminished, Barak called for rest. He stood before the throng, his voice carrying earnest weight. This day shall be marked not only as a victory but as a testament to obedience, the heart of our God unfolding before us. His ways are higher, let us remember that his mercy endures forever. Jael stepped forward, her spirit aflame with gratitude and renewal. Brothers and sisters, we have witnessed the unyielding promise of God. We have fought not only against the enemy of our people, but the darkness of pride that hides among us. Her voice rang with authority, echoing through the assembly. The faces of her people glimmered with understanding as they recognized the sacred interplay of God's sovereign plan, a hope restored and destinies intertwined. What we have seen today is but a glimpse of his greater vision to guide us, to heal us, and to call us further into the promise of his covenant. She declared, eyes bright with fervor. And then the mist of possibility unfurled. For today, let us be bound not only as victors over adversaries but as architects of hope for our future. Each of us, whether man or woman, young or old, has a role to play. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, the gathering felt the magnitude of their journey. The echoes of Jael's words became a chorus, lifting hearts in gratitude and reflection, as they committed themselves to the unfolding narrative God had set before them. United, they prayed, binding their voices with an understanding that their story was woven into the heart of God as eternal design, an assurance that what began in battle would lead to a legacy rooted in faith and transformation. Thus, the people of Israel embarked on the next phase of their covenant journey, fueled by resolve, marked by a history of faithfulness, and walking toward the promised future unveiled by their God, who weaves stories of deliverance, renewal, and unfailing love into the tapestry of time. As they pledged their faithfulness to the remaining trials ahead, every heart within the assembly knew they were part of a greater story, a testimony that would echo through the ages, bearing witness to the unchanging sovereignty of God, and forever declaring his goodness. And with that, the tapestry of divine transformation continued to unfold, forever honoring the journey of those who believe and sow seeds of hope and faith in the unfolding goodness of the Almighty. As you reflect on this powerful story of transformation and victory, we invite you to join our community. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word and not miss the next powerful biblical stories that can change lives. This is the moment to help spread biblical truth, so please leave a like now to help others discover God's faithfulness through the algorithm. We want to hear from you. Comment below with your spiritual reflections and tell us how this biblical story impacted your faith. And don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth today. Only believers understand the importance of spreading this news to reach more souls for Christ.